Welcome to the first Hangout of Unit 1 of this MOOC. I am the coordinator of this MOOC, Miyoko Saito. Now, today we will be talking about the Activity 2, which is part of Unit 1. And if you bear with me, I'm going to just show you what I have just prepared. All right, so let's see the some of the contents. All right, in this assignment, which is probably not very obvious because it is under the practice tab, what you need to do is to go to the practice tab, and then you can see that there's activity 2. There's some instructions, and then if you read it very, very carefully, you can see that there's answer the question, which is written very small, but that's where you will need to go. All right. And then the questions that we have asked you to answer are given here. Let's just go through one by one. The first one is to describe just one of the assessment in your country that you know or you remember from your experience. And then you're going to describe what type of assessment that is, who are in charge of the development and the implementation, and what is your role. You may not be involved directly, but then you can say something like you're the data user or you observe as general public. And then the 5, 6, 7 also, these are the description about this assessment. What are the subject, what level of students, and how often, the frequency of this assessment. Now, then, so if you go into that activity to answer questions section, you will see those boxes, open boxes, where you can type to describe your assessment that you have selected. For example, you can talk about the assessment within the IIEP MOOC that everybody knows. There are some activities, there are some quizzes, there are different assessments that you can talk about. You can talk about your national assessment. Now, as an example, I just put here national assessment in Japan. Or you can talk about something like a regional or international assessment. You can talk about PASEC, which is a Francophone network assessment. You can talk about PISA or TIMSS or the PEARLS, etc. EGRA or EGMA, all right? And then so it goes on. And then sometimes you may not know what to write about. For example, I know that national assessment existed in Japan, but then I wasn't sure how they were using, whether that's formative or summative. And then PASEC, I know a little bit. Actually, I know quite a lot, but you may be wondering what this assessment is about. So in that case, there's an option to use external information. Now, one of the external information that we have suggested here is the UIS's catalog, and they have developed this catalog of learning assessments of different countries. So if you go into that link, you can see some countries. You can actually select the countries that you would like to go and then look at. Now, since I'm Japan, I'm obviously interested in Japanese assessment, and then go H, I, and L, and J is not there. Of course, there is no Japan. So in that case, I encourage you to contact the UIS for updating the catalog. Now, I will have to contact the UIS about Japan. I know about Japanese, the fact that the learning assessment exists, but again, if you are contacting UIS, please make sure to also describe that assessment. And if you have some extra information about that, please send it to UIS as well. Now, since Japan is not there, I could actually go and look at the CONFEMEN member countries that is given by the EOS catalog. So I can go and look at that. And then the system gives me one entry, which describes this PASEC program, which is actually the program that analyzes the système éducatif de la CONFEMEN, which is the Francophone countries network. Then you can obtain the assessment description in that document. There's some summaries, abstract, etc., who are in there, what countries, and what kind of things are assessed. The information is there. Now, another source of information that you can consult is the IAP's Learning Portal. Now, in the Learning Portal, you have the map, very helpful map. So if you go to, if you want to know about a particular country, you can select the country. There's a little Japan here, so I'm going to click on that one, and then it will give me a lot of international assessment. Okay, there are many PISA studies, there are many TIMSS studies. So then I can go and look at one of them, but then there are some, well, not national assessments that's listed, but then again, I think the IIEP's Learning Portal currently only has the international assessment. Then, if you know that your country have participated in other large-scale national not national but international or the regional assessment, then you can also contact the IIEP in order to update this map. Okay, then let's go back to our example. So I'm going to use the PASEC example and Japanese national assessment example. So for question 1, you're going to say what the name of the assessment, PASEC, the program for analysis the system of education in CONFEMEN, okay, for the Japanese case, national assessment of Japan, in Japan. Question 2, what type of assessment is that? In PASEC, they're using both for formative and summative. For the formative, they actually indicate, whether the beginning of the school, the students in the beginning of the schools are learning reading and mathematics, and then they will provide some remediation in order to improve the quality of education. So that could be considered as formative. And then they also have some summative purpose to contribute for the guiding of the action, policies and action in education by looking at the results. For the Japanese, we have the learning assessment, which was summative, but in order to improve the education system so that they can recuperate from the PISA shock that happened after the relaxing curriculum that was going on before PISA study took place. Now, the question number 3 is the, who is in charge? The CONFEMEN PASEC Secretariat and the National Team. For the Japanese exam, that's going to be the Ministry of Education. The PASEC example for question 4 is the fact that, maybe I am giving some technical advice, or I may be only using the data produced by PASEC. So you can just write about your role. For the Japanese example as well, I can be just an observer in the general public. PASEC example for question 5, some subjects that were assessed, okay, that included reading, mathematics, and writing. For the Japanese example, national language, Japanese, and mathematics. For number 6, you can say that grade 2 and 6 are assessed in PASEC example. And for Japanese example, there would be grade 6 and 9, because that's the end of the cycle examination, but not examination, it's a learning assessment. And then instead of taking the sample, surprisingly, they are just taking the entire population. But some prefectures or the schools could refuse to take the assessment. It's not really high-stake examination. It's the assessment in order to in a way improve the education system, but more toward the answering to the PISA type of questions. Now, how often is this organized? In PISA's case, every 3 to 4 years. In Japanese example, that's every year since 2007. Now here, so I just finished. If you finish all of the questions, then you can click on the submit your answer button, and then your contribution would be sent to us. Now, I would encourage you to ask me questions, and since yesterday we have received some questions. Now, if you just bear with me, I'm going to switch back to myself so you can see me. Okay. Now, one of the questions was that can we collaborate with my country mates in order to finish activity 1, activity 2? The answer is yes, of course. We encourage you to do that. But then one of the limitations in using this kind of survey is that you write something and you send something, but then the other people will not see your contribution. So in that case, you can also do copy and paste.
We have to use the discussion forum for activity.
Yes, copy and paste the text that you're typing in, and then put that in your discussion forum question section for activity 2 within unit 1. Okay. Then somebody was asking me about the deadline for activity 2. Now, there is no deadline. You can actually take any time, but then if you wait too long, there are other activities that are coming up. So you have to plan your time wisely. Now, we have also a question about the certification. Now, there are 2 types of certifications, and the requirements are different. And I encourage you to look at the syllabus again. Syllabus is downloadable. You can consult on the page, which is called the welcome page of the MOOC, and you can see different requirements for different certifications. There is another question about the quiz. That's right. For the quiz, what was the question?
What is the quiz about? What kind of questions they are going to find in the quiz?
What kind of question that you're going to find in the quiz? I am not going to ask you, I'm not going to give you some responses, but we have used the multiple choice, but usually you can take, well, for each question, it's a little bit difficult, more difficult than multiple choice, which has only one answer. Many of the questions have more than one right answers. And if you look very, very carefully the instruction of each question, you will see that the whether you have to take one answer only or at least one, more than one or more answers, and then you will be able to decide whether you should click only one option or more than one options. Now you can have 2 attempts, and then your score, the highest score, will be recorded, and that would go toward your certification criteria. Okay. Other questions? No more questions. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and we will see each other again during the next Hangout, which is next week. Thank you. Bye.